Hi, Alex and Jamie here with another contract negotiation session. So last Wednesday we had another negotiation session with management.
Well, really the only one that talked was Deb Solomon.
Yeah, it seems like she's the only one they have to speak.
Yesterday was quite revealing.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that negotiations have begun in earnest. Look, we are not going to try and sugarcoat things for you guys. Wednesday was an unpleasant, frustrating, and very revealing day. What we are about to go over should agitate you, all of our members. I am optimistic, however. I'm optimistic that you will share in our frustration and anger, and that those feelings will galvanize our resolve and make us stronger.
So we started off with management responding.
Well, more like rejecting.
Yeah, to the proposals we made to them last week. The first one was the call differential of $6 an hour and a 4-hour minimum time. They rejected this offer, but said they would have a counter coming at a future negotiation.
And then they rejected our demand for returning our PTO time to pre-2019 accrual rates. Deb Solomon said that we actually have more time off than the average nurse by like 4 weeks. When we asked where they got this idea from, she said she had done a Google search.
Because we all know that that's the scholarly way to research.
Right. Her Google search found that an average nurse, we assume nationally, works like 38 hours a week. And the nurses here at Mercy work closer to 32. So the math is 6 hours a week less over 52 weeks actually amounts to that we're working 4 or 5 weeks less than the average Google search nurse.
Clearly, that's absurd. Time off just simply doesn't work that way. And to suggest that we work at Mercy less than any other nurse just doesn't seem right.
It's insulting.
They then turned to holidays, where we had asked for Good Friday and Easter to be returned to our members, being a Catholic institution and all.
Right.
They also rejected that and said they did have a counter offer coming at a future negotiation again.
Yeah, later, certainly got, shall we say, interesting. Regarding our ask for tuition reimbursement language to be clarified, they rejected that per diems would qualify for reimbursement. However, there was an implication that there would be something to revisit as we got into the financial and economics later in negotiations.
We did challenge that per diems are an integral part of Mercy's staff, and if education is important to regular staff, it's also important to per diem staff.
That's true. When they didn't really respond to that, so we moved into issues we wanted to address this session. Sick policy was first on our agenda, and we made a presentation about the history of sick time here at Mercy, how it changed in the past year, and why that doesn't work for our membership. Essentially, we historically have had 5 events, each with 2 occurrences. So if you were sick on a Monday and sick on a Tuesday, that was 1 occurrence. That they replaced this, which was essentially the bare minimum. The Mass Legislature passed a law forcing the worst employers in the state who didn't offer any sick time to their staff members to be required to offer a minimum of 40 hours a year. Trinity adopted this as their policy.
They want to say that that means that we get 5 sick days a year, but the problem is that assumes an 8-hour work shift, and we all know we work 12-hour work shifts.
Right.
So that equates to really 3 shifts and a few hours after. But management's position was that that's still technically a week off.
But it's still a 70% reduction from what we had prior. We also challenged that, we as direct staff, people that work actually with patients, don't have the luxury, if we feel poorly, to go into our office and close the door and be less productive. Or we can't leave our desk a few hours early and head home. We have to assess a few hours before our shift is to begin. Are we going to be mentally sharp, physically able, to be ready to be locked into a position and responsible for the care and well-being of multiple people in our charge for 12 or more hours? That we care for sick people, that puts us at a greater risk, only adds to our potential for falling ill.
True. We also challenge that because of reductions in PTO time, that calling out impacts our members' ability to take time off down the road, especially our newest members who it takes almost 3 pay periods to accrue 12 hours. Deb went on a big rant about how the contract we ratified and that they weren't going to discuss any PTO time. But that's hardly our point.
No, it wasn't.
We still need to describe how our members are impacted by this, and that's something we need to revisit.
Yeah, we for sure do. Exactly. So regarding sick time, we also wanted to add a clause in simply stating that it was a fair assumption to be made that if a member contracts COVID, it's assumed to be a workplace event. Deb countered that they had found that cases of COVID amongst staff were acquired in the community at family events, or if staff members didn't take proper precautions like hand washing or using the abundance of PPE the hospital makes available. Abundance of PPE.
They like to blame and deflect everything, make it our fault. We pointed out to them that nationally nurses specifically have a higher rate of transmission and infection than the general public, and that medical literature and journals determine that this is due to increased exposure in hospitals.
And that's how you do research.
Yes.
Things were getting pretty tense at this point. We moved into our second proposal, which was a little technical. It had to do with the grievance process. We're trying to make it more balanced. Last week they had made something that was more benefiting them. This time we went back and forth and tried to get it more evened out.
We then asked them about a proposal that they had made last week that we were looking to clarify.
Yeah, the conversation surrounding professional attire. We wanted to understand what the problem that they were trying to address here was. Ultimately, it comes down to hoodies. They want to couch this as a safety concern. We all challenged about the safety concerns we face every day. Our scrubs can be grabbed, our stethoscopes, IV poles. It all comes down to that they don't think hoodies are professional. I think this is your part.
The reality that management wanted to primarily have hoodies removed from the dress code was surprising, because they say they see it as a safety risk. But let's be real. Any garment could be considered a safety risk. So the real reason they want to have hoodies removed comes down to their stereotypical appearance. I'll let you draw your own conclusions with that. But let's remember the camaraderie brought on by critical care team, teen nursing, or ER hoodies. Plus, we all know they keep this building cold. That's another stereotype.
Unless you're like me, and then I'm warm all the time. Anyway, we decided it was time to step away and take a lunch break and come back in an hour. We returned making a counter proposal about that grievance process we were talking about a little bit ago. There's still a lot of work to be done here, but we did make some progress on that.
With the time remaining, we asked if we could hear some of the proposals they had alluded to earlier in response to either on-call pay or holidays. They had something specially prepared for holidays.
Oh boy, did they ever. So remember, guys, our ask was that because Mercy and Trinity is a Catholic institution, that Good Friday and Easter be returned as holidays, that it's important to our members. Their counterproposal, which they were excited to offer and thought our members would be enthusiastic to embrace, was the deletion of Martin Luther King Day as a holiday and the creation of a float holiday that our members could take as they wish. They also added a clause saying that the hospital operates 365 days a year, and I quote, "All service lines will be open and operational as volume and patient needs dictate." Now, there's a lot to unpack here.
There certainly is. Primarily, we don't want any takeaways with any holidays. The fact that management thought that Martin Luther King Day was disposable is at the least tone deaf, considering everything going on in society today. Martin Luther King Jr. should be remembered for trying to unite all people. His legacy should not be removed.
The tone deafness is astounding. It was really difficult to be in the meeting at that point. Moreover, we saw particularly how difficult getting float holidays are. We've all put in slips to get float holidays, and we've all had those rejected at times. They wanted to say that we could get Easter, or if you're Jewish, Rosh Hashanah, Ramadan, or your birthday off. We know this to be absurd because we've all gotten rejection slips back for time we've requested off. And it's really important that we can't forget this last line, that the hospital will be fully open to business for 365 days a year. This is a direct assault to all of our members who work Monday through Friday, no weekends, no holidays. They want to change that, guys. That this was offered as a perceived benefit is yet another insult to our traditions, our history, and our integrity at Mercy Hospital.
Our regional union leader, Rudy, at this time basically ended Wednesday's session, expressing the extreme frustration that whatever proposal we had was rejected out of hand, that we couldn't even agree on a basic description of the landscape. When we would describe the grass to be green and the sky blue, Deb Solomon would say it was yellow and the grass purple. The meeting abruptly ended after 8 grueling hours.
So look, guys, whether it be hoodies and Martin Luther King Day eliminating, whether it be the ugliness that implies, whether it be rejecting that we need time off because we work less hours per week than some Google search nurse, that we continue to turn a blind eye to the importance of Good Friday and Easter to many of our members, that if we fall ill to COVID, that it's on us, that because we're careless or we didn't heed their endless training or wash our hands or use the abundance of PPE that they provide, that per diem somehow don't need education, that they're going to double down on a sick time policy that's unreasonable and cruel, or that they think they can sneak in a clause eliminating an entire class of nurse, deleting provisions giving people weekends and holidays off, basically turning Mercy, our home, into some sort of assembly line that they can turn on and off at their whim. They've actually gone after each and every one of us, the professional and proud nurses here at Mercy. We should be disappointed and shocked at the level of disregard and disrespect leveled at each of us on Wednesday. But I challenge all of you to channel these feelings that we're all having, focus them, and use them to leverage more respect and a contract we deserve. We're in this for the long haul, people. This is going to be a bumpy road, and I believe that when we stand shoulder to shoulder and we are together as one nurse, we are strong. If you watch this video, show it to 4 or 5 other colleagues. Show it to your parents. Show it to your partners. Show it to your friends. Let them all know what you're up against. The more people we have upset and behind our cause, because this is our cause, the better the outcome that we can obtain. I absolutely believe that to be true.
I see this contract as being important to the future of nursing at Mercy Hospital. Management makes it clear that they want us to be robots plugged into whatever position that they want us to work with the least amount of resources available. We see being a nurse at Mercy as caring for patients, working really hard at a very challenging job, putting ourselves in harm's way, and in return, we want to ensure that we're not taken for granted. So let's come together, get involved, and get through this contract.
I'm going to say this at the end of each one of these videos. We are stronger together. Thank you for your time.